Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. Julian here for another Drops episode. And dropping a player from your team is never an easy thing to do, especially when it comes to guys that you've held all year so far with the hopes that they're going to turn things around. Before we jump into today's content, guys, drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you do want to take your support to the next level, you can either hit the join button here on YouTube, or you can go in the description below. The link to my Patreon is there, and if you do join there, you unlock perks like being able to DM with me one-on-one, ask me any fantasy hockey questions you have, and early access videos if I ever upload videos earlier than they release, which is fairly frequently. Let's jump right into it now, guys, and before we jump into players that we're going to consider dropping, we're going to look at some players that are trending down and are not necessarily drops just yet, or probably will never be drops, but they're just guys who are not doing great. And first on the list is Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning. 98% rostered and only 1 point in his last 4 games and 2 points in his last 6. Overall, he's been super underwhelming on the season, and he's ranked 250th in most leagues, which just isn't good enough considering how early you probably drafted this guy. And he's a natural center too, so you probably had to reach for this guy in drafts considering his position. It's just really not ideal. When you consider that he's still top line and top power play and gets the same deployment he always gets, you got to figure that he's going to turn things around, so I'm not overly worried. But definitely right now, he's not helping you in fantasy hockey. Jordan Kyrou has 0 points in his last 4 games and was just healthy scratched. Yeah, things are not going well for Jordan Kyrou right now in St. Louis. The good news is he's back on the top line with Robert Thomas and Braden Shen, which is exactly where you want to see him if you're a Kyrou owner, but he's still not top power play. And honestly, Kyrou wasn't really ever expected to be top power play for some reason. They just never like to put him there. Even last year and previous years, he hasn't gotten a whole lot of power play one time, so that's not something that's overly concerning, but definitely he's going to have to start turning things around on that top line. Then we have Alexei Protas of the Washington Capitals, and he's someone that I really wasn't that high on this year. He relied heavily on 5-on-5 production last year, considering he basically got 0 power play time. And would you look at that? This year, once again, he's not on either power play. And even though he is in the top 6, he's on the worst of the 2 lines. He's on a line with McMichael and Wilson, which isn't horrendous, but definitely not incredible. And he's only got 1 point in his last 6. And it's just somebody that, if you're in a shallow league, you can easily find somebody better on the waiver wire that's probably getting power play time, that probably has some more upside than Alexei Protas. If you're in a super deep league, you probably got to hold this guy. But he's definitely someone who, in my opinion, is trending down to being droppable in even more leagues. Frank Nazar of the Chicago Blackhawks is now pointless in his last 5 games. And he did also get injured last night. I'm recording this on Saturday morning, and yeah, Frank Nazar got injured. It doesn't seem like it's too bad, so he could already be back on Sunday, so I'm not overly worried about that. But yeah, the pointless streak is rough, but still, he looks good on the ice, and I think he's going to have a pretty solid year overall. It's definitely going to be rough holding him this week, though, on a week that Chicago only plays 2 games, I believe on Wednesday and Saturday, so yeah, it's just really not ideal for Frank Nazar, but hopefully, if you're lucky, guys, he might actually just stay on the IR for the week until Saturday, which would probably be ideal, honestly. And then Owen Tippett of the Philadelphia Flyers is line 1, power play 1 with Trevor Zegras, so you'd think he'd be doing a whole lot better, but he's not. He's not really shooting as much as we would like him to be, and he's also not really getting that many points. You have to imagine that they're going to start coming given the great deployment that he has, and considering how well Trevor Zegras is doing, you got to think Tippett is going to turn things around. Jumping into defense, Morgan Rielly is the first guy who's trending down, and the reason he's trending down is not because he's playing badly, it's because he was just knocked off power play 1 in favor of Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Now, Toronto has done this before. I don't think Oliver Ekman-Larsson is going to stay there that long. But still, without power play 1, he managed 4 points through his last game. I don't think that's going to be sustainable as long as he's off that top power play. But hey, hopefully he gets that power play spot back because that definitely helps his value. Next, we have Vince Dunn of the Seattle Kraken, who's still 79% rostered, and he's kind of sucked this season. He's ranked 300-ish in most leagues, and that just isn't good enough. He has been getting most of the top power play time in Seattle, so you'd think he would have produced more offense, but he has not. He is shooting the puck though, so you got to think that that kind of turns around at some point. He's not going to be this bad all year. He's definitely a tough hold right now though. Seth Jones, another guy who's a super tough hold. He's only got 1 point in his last 5 games. He remains on the top power play. He's been stuck there the entire season, which is really good. It's good that they're not demoting them off that spot. But he's not doing a whole lot with the top power play spot. His peripherals are fine, but nothing too spectacular. I know a lot of other YouTubers were super high on this guy during the off season. I wasn't overly high on Seth Jones this year. I didn't think that with the injuries in Florida, he'd be that valuable. And honestly, I've never been a huge fan of this guy either. I think that he probably will end up being fine, and he's a must hold in most leagues. Like, you probably can't afford to drop him if you drafted him as early as you did. There's probably no better defenseman on the waiver wire, but definitely he's a tough hold right now. Then we have Brandt Clark, and he was doing incredibly, but LA continues to roll a 5-man power play. That offensive production that you saw for that little 3-game burst was not sustainable. If he can continue to impress though and generate a little bit more offense, there is a chance that LA does put him on power play 1. They've already shown that they're willing to change their power play. Kuzmenko is not on it anymore, and Corey Perry is. As of right now, though, Brandt Clark is not on power play 1, so his value is limited. And finally, Keandre Miller is somebody who came back from injury and was expected to regain that top power play spot with Gostisbehere still injured. But Sean Walker actually played really well on that top unit, so Keandre Miller is not on that top power play unit. Now, he still played well early in the season without the top power play, putting up some decent peripherals. But if he can't do that now, he's a very easy drop. Let's see if he's able to put up some points and peripherals even without the top power play, though, before we drop him. Now for some outright drops, and I might get some hate for this, but there is no such thing as an outright drop in every league. If you're in a super deep league, you're not dropping the first guy on this list, Jordan Binnington. If you're in a league that highly values goalies, you're not dropping this first guy on this list, Jordan Binnington. It doesn't make sense. Now, if you are in a shallower league, though, and there's a goalie like Dostal floating out on the waiver wire, that's where I would consider dropping Jordan Binnington. He has not been good this year, and St. Louis has really not been good this year. Do I think that's going to last all year? Absolutely not. I think that at some point, he turns things around. We know how good this guy can be. Am I dropping him in all leagues? Like I said, absolutely not. But in the shallower ones, where there's some pretty good goalies out there, you definitely can consider doing so. Matvei Michkov is the next guy I'd consider dropping, and right now he's playing with Couturier and Bobby Brink on what looks like the second line in Philadelphia. He's honestly been super disappointing this year, and if you are in a shallower league at this point, I would consider dropping him. He's not even power play 1 right now, which is super rough for all you guys that have him. So yeah, if you're in a shallower league at this point, drop him. There's probably some better options out there. If you're in a super deep league, you have no choice but to hold and pray that things get better. Then I have Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault of the Nashville Predators. And they play on the second line with Haula, and they both play on power play 2 as well. Although both power play units tend to get a decent amount of ice time in Nashville, so they're still getting power play time. And I don't absolutely hate these guys, and I think that they're probably holdable if you need to, but yeah, it's definitely rough holding these guys because they're not doing a whole lot of anything. Now, the only reason I would keep these guys this specific week, though, is because Nashville does play on some off nights. They play Monday, Friday, and Sunday, so you're pretty much guaranteed to fit these guys in your lineup. So that's why I really don't absolutely hate holding on to these guys. But if there's some better guys out there that you can also fit into your lineup, I probably would prefer that over these guys. And finally, Zane Parekh of the Calgary Flames. Not only did he just get injured, but he's been completely useless. Even when he's in the lineup, he's not doing a whole lot of anything. He's not putting up any peripherals at all, and the points are not frequent enough. I mean, if you have an extra IR spot, you might as well throw him onto there, but yeah, he's not someone who's particularly impressing me this year. Uyghur's back on that top power play unit, and it looks like he's not giving up that spot anytime soon. And that's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll catch you all in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.